My name is Becky Baranowski. I'm interim dean of STEM and workforce development. I want to thank Dr. Cantu for her time and effort that she's put into today's event. This just to give a little bit of the background. Well, before I do that, actually, I also want to thank Matt Jolly, Megan McGuire, Heather Cruz, and Rachel Smith as well, because this has been a collaborative effort. And I'm incredibly grateful to this group. Background information for those that weren't able to attend our first kind of free speech and academic freedom event that we had a while ago is we had a situation last semester where a student came through claiming his free speech rights are being violated. This went all the way through to the president, and it was just something that me as a faculty member, I mean, I know so those that don't know me, I am an interim dean, I've been faculty for a long time. I'm thinking I want to know what's going on. And so I wanted to try to help provide some trainings. And so I met with Liz and the team, and they've been fabulous with saying, let's do some things and get some trainings to occur. We're hoping to continue this on. And I know it's been happening throughout the district as well. So thank you to the group for doing this. So Liz, do you want to chime in with anything on this?
No, thank you. Yeah, as Dean Baranowski said, we're really grateful for the Committee of Academic Freedom. We are hoping to continue this type of programming, as a result of the ways that we can all learn together and support not just our student learning, also our professional learning, right, and growth, and ways that we want to engage our students in provocative ways that sometimes don't make everyone feel comfortable. And so that's just a little bit of, this is our second session. We're hoping to host a couple in the fall. Again, really grateful for the Committee of Academic Freedom for their collaboration. And with that, I think just maybe a little bit about how we'll spend our time today, which we are already delving in. For those of you enjoying lunch, bon appetit, buen provecho. For those of you that maybe are hoping to have lunch, hopefully that will come soon. The next thing we'll want to really kind of do is just start to define a little bit about what academic freedom is. We'll do some interactive breakout room session discussions, and then report outs, and then we'll close. I wanted to share that there is a Padlet. So I'll put the link in the chat for those that are connected to a computer or device. This is really, I think, a place where if you're inspired by something, you have other thoughts or ideas of how we can continue to make this program meaningful to you and other colleagues and students, please do put them here. This is actually something that we started on January 26th, and that kind of informed a little bit about how we are approaching today's conversation. And then we're hoping that in the fall, we can continue that. And so you'll even see that one of the scenarios that we have in the breakout room sessions actually was posted on January 26th as something that people wanted to learn more about, or how would people approach it. So maybe you can say that the Padlet is just an opportunity for us to share ideas, thoughts, or resources so that we can continue to learn and grow together.
So we'll be doing, I believe, a video defining academic freedom and freedom of speech. And then when we break out to the scenarios, we're going to be passing, so for in-person, we're going to be passing around those scenarios. And with the online, Liz will take care of the online. What I really want to see happen is people jump into the scenario that intrigues them the most. We're not going to say you have to do one, you have to do two, because we want this meaningful for you. So kind of read through them. And so again, I can do more directions. We have that, but same thing for our online posts. We want this to be meaningful. So find that scenario you're like, ooh, I want to talk about this. Okay. So Liz, if you want to, I don't know if you want to add more, if you want to start the video. Oh, we can't hear you, Liz.
Thank you. I had to do it just once today. Anyone have any questions, thoughts, or suggestions about today's program or how we'll spend our time? All right, with that, then I think we'll go ahead and get started on defining a little bit more about academic freedom and freedom of speech through a quick video.
Freedom of speech is a necessary prerequisite to being able to pursue the truth. it's only necessary, but it's not sufficient. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression fundamentally protect opinion. We don't limit speech. You can have a crazy opinion and we'll protect it. Academic freedom is different. Academic freedom is the necessary, and it is a sufficient condition to achieve the truth. Now, how do we do that? Well, in the university context, this has been the role, the intentional, explicit, understood role of the university since the University of Berlin was established in 1810. And since that period, one of the things society looks to the university is for authoritative knowledge. What is the state of knowledge in any particular field? What we do at universities is we try to provide that authoritative knowledge. How do we do that? Well, we recruit scholars who are the best in their fields. We place them in contexts. We call them departments, disciplines, and we ask them to do the very best work that they're capable of and then to transmit that knowledge to the next generation. What is the state of that knowledge the state of knowledge in their discipline, the authoritative knowledge in their discipline. We call that authoritative knowledge truth. The truth is always provisional. Our whole purpose in being is to continue to interrogate what we consider to be the truth. And we're constantly revising and making new insights and new inroads and reinterpreting what we thought we had as received wisdom. That's the work of universities. It can be a source of frustration. Can't you guys ever get it right? Is sometimes a criticism laid on us. No, we're always in progress, always trying to pursue further, push back the boundaries of knowledge.
Any immediate thoughts or questions about that before we maybe delve more into Maricopa Community College and how we, through our policies and or our approaches to this topic, are any immediate questions?
Nothing from in here, Liz.
All right. Well, with that, maybe I will turn it over a little bit to our colleagues on the Committee for Academic Freedom, and they will take us through some resources that we have here, but maybe just also kind of, again, how do we approach this within Maricopa? There was some really big ideas mentioned in the video, and so how do we actually concretize that, or how do we operationalize that into the work that we're doing here in Maricopa? Matt or Megan, any thoughts?
Do you want to jump in, Megan?
You could go ahead. You have this down.
Well, so I know that I mentioned I had a few slides. Why don't I just share one slide from, oh, I can't while you're sharing. I was wondering if I could share one slide from the presentation that I have, just because I think it speaks to what the short talk just shared.
Yeah, that's all you, Matt.
Great. So there's this distinction between freedom of speech and academic freedom that's really incredibly important, and it helps us to understand what we mean when we're talking about academic freedom. So let's start with freedom of speech. It's right, this constitutionally protected right that all citizens have. When I speak freely as a citizen, I'm accountable to no person. There can't be any governmental consequences as a result of my speech. And it's an individual right, that right to free speech. I have it because I'm an individual citizen. And in a democracy, all voices are equal. There is no content discrimination in free speech realms. But when we're talking about academic freedom, we are, as scholars, accountable to the standards of the discipline as it's determined by our peers. So we're not really free to say anything. We're free to say that which can be supported by the work of scholarship, and speaks to the standards of our disciplines. And it's not an individual right. The academic freedom emerged as a way of protecting the academic institution from outside influence by governments or financial interests or religious organizations or public opinion. It was a way of shielding the academic institution so that it could do research that maybe sometimes was uncomfortable to people with power, right? And so it's not an individual right. It's a right of the discipline to do its work. And there's a high level of content discrimination in academic freedom. We only want to promote the best ideas. So we actually don't. It's not a democratic ideal. It's a scholarly ideal that we elevate those ideas that are best supported through scholarship and disciplinary expertise. And so, like, this is the important distinction that we make between free speech and academic freedom. Liz, do you want to go back to your slides? So academic freedom is enshrined in our faculty agreement in section 3.1. And it outlines the 4 pillars of academic freedom. We are free in the realms of teaching, in the realms of research and publication, in the realm of intramural speech, which is that speech that we do for the sake of shared governance, and in extramural speech, which is that speech that we do as citizens. And so there's a little overlap there between free speech and the extramural speech rights that are protected in our contract, where when we speak as citizens, we can't be punished for that extramural speech. So there's a little overlap there. But for the most part, these are distinct concepts. And so, yes, right. So if you have academic freedom questions, or if you're in some sort of hot water and you think it's an academic freedom issue, the Committee on Academic Freedom, which is a district-wide committee that was established 3 years ago, Megan, does that sound right to you? There's the Committee on Academic Freedom has a request for assistance Google form. And you can submit a request for assistance there, and it will go before the full CAF. And these are folks, the CAF, they're not just random people. Every single member of CAF has spent a summer studying academic freedom principles before they really participate. So we read John Dewey, and we read the 1915 Declaration, and we read the 1940 Statement. And we read this wonderful book called For the Common Good by Matthew Finken and Robert Post. They're both constitutional speech lawyers. Robert Post was a former president of AAUP, the American Association of University Professors. So the CAF are like people who have deeply studied academic freedom issues. And we've had some really wonderful, complicated cases come before us. So then the public access and expression on district policy 6.24, admin reg 6.24, is really related to free speech. There are a couple of places that I'd like to highlight here. If you could scroll down past the definitions. Yeah, so stop there. So I love C. In any higher education environment, including here at the district, it is normal for the ideas of various members of a district community to differ and sometimes conflict with each other or members of the public. Although the district values highly the principles of civility and mutual respect, it is not the proper role of an institution of higher education to attempt to shield members from ideas and opinions they might find unwelcome, disrespectful, upsetting, or even deeply offensive. Concerns, and this is really interesting, concerns about civility and mutual respect do not justify closing off discussion of any ideas or opinions, no matter how disagreeable or offensive they may be to some or even most members of the district community. So this is actually like, it's a really strong statement on the part of the district to say, hey, you know what? Controversy is part of higher education, and we welcome that controversy. And there's another section where if you scroll down a little bit more, it says the response to there it is, or even loathsome. Anyway, I can't find it right now, but there's a part of this that says like the response to unwelcome speech is not to shut it down. The response to unwelcome speech is more speech. And this is the policy of our district, which is really fascinating, right? So what does that mean within these contexts where there is so much political conflict, right? And so many people disagree on ideological grounds. And so many people, including governments, right, want to shut down the speech of people they disagree with. And so, yeah, there it is. I love that. The district is committed fully to the fundamental tenet of higher education that the appropriate response to false, offensive, or even aberrant speech is not to prohibit it or hide from it, but to respond to and challenge it with more speech. I love that. So the response to a speaker that you disagree with is not to show up and heckler's veto with a megaphone, shout them down so they can't speak, which, by the way, the heckler's veto is one of the definitions and it's verboten. The response to that is a counter protest or a lecture series or right, like lots of ways to counter that with speech, which is supported by the admin reg. I don't know if that was what you were looking for, Liz, but I think I stuck within the time frame.
Yeah, no, that's great. You know, again, this is really meant to be a dialogue, right? Where we're learning, where we're asking questions. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions, not only in terms of the policies, perhaps, maybe just also in terms of the whole realm of what falls within freedom of speech or academic freedom?
Can I add one small thing?
Yeah.
Under the First Amendment and freedom of speech, you can't penalize somebody because of the content of their speech. And academic freedom, though, as Matt and the speaker said, there are things that are true and untrue, and that's monitored by the people in the discipline, the experts. And so they can censor you. And that's the purpose of peer review, is to make sure you're participating as a scholar and professional within your field, and you monitor each other. So
Can you scroll to G, please? Thank you. Oh, and let me move this. Anything from the room? Any comments or questions from the room before we breakouts?
Well, I guess I'll just say about G that this hasn't been challenged in court in Maricopa, but if it were, it would probably fail. Because there's a very famous case from the 60s where somebody was using obscenity and they tried to shut him down. The government tried to shut him down, and he challenged that in court and he won that case. So the obscenity rule here on district property might not hold up. But I know your case had to do with the classroom. And I think that those are different in important ways, because in the classroom, you're trying to maintain an effective learning environment. So the campus grounds are a public space. And I'm not sure the district could effectively censor profanity in a public space. That's the government in a public space, right? The classroom is a different space. And I think different rules apply there. So I always thought that was interesting about G. I wonder what would happen if it were challenged in court.
We have a statement or a question in the room, Patty?
That you speak to the first sentence that we may restrict anything that violates state, federal, or local law. We've had some very interesting laws in the past here in Arizona. So can you speak to that first part of this?
I can't think of a particular example that would make it challenging, Patty. Can you give me an example?
Let's say that the state of Arizona outlaws all abortions. Can the district restrict public expression that someone wants to protest that particular law?
Oh, no, I don't think so. So if the state bans abortions, I don't think the state could ever ban expression around the issue of abortions. And if they did, it would be challenged in the Supreme Court and held up and struck down through First Amendment rights. Like even if there's a law banning abortions, we still have a right to speak on that issue as citizens.
I have a question that has come up recently in my almost 9 months here in the CTL. So, there's a lot of faculty that have given suggestions for us in the Center for Teaching and Learning at Estrella Mountain to perhaps work on having some tools that help us customize Canvas templates, that maybe syllabus management tools, and often in conversations, people will say, nope, that violates my academic freedom. And so I wanted to get your take on that, because to me, it's sort of this idea of I don't think we're looking to mandate that everyone, these are tools, right? Tools to help if people choose to use them or not. Similar to Canvas Learning Management System, I know there are faculty who still do not teach within Canvas. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because I never really fully know how to respond, other than we're just trying to help and be responsive to needs that help with instruction, as well as ways that we can maybe standardize certain processes, like the layout and aesthetic of something, to really help with the student experience. Because that's one comment we've heard from a lot of students. Every time I take a new class, I have to figure out how to navigate this whole new class again, because everyone does Canvas differently or does, their instruction differently. So thoughts or ideas on some of those examples.
I think it's fine to provide templates and things like that. And we have I was trying to find our paper on master courses. Let me put it in the chat. But however, academic freedom should allow people to edit it however they want to, however they think it's most useful for how they teach and deliver their course. It can't be mandated. A course shell couldn't be mandated. However, there's shared academic freedom. And if there was an agreement among faculty who teach the same section of a course to share the same materials and template, they can come to that agreement, but they can't always supplement it, the course that they teach and the materials that they use.
Yeah, so we specifically considered, Megan, did you talk about simple syllabus? Sorry, my computer crapped out. I don't know.
Oh, no, I forgot about that one.
Oh, yeah. So we did, one of the CTLs at one of the colleges asked us to weigh in on simple syllabus, which is this amazing tool where, okay, it links up with Canvas and it auto-populates all of the required elements of the syllabus, and it will streamline that process for faculty. And we discussed that, and we said, absolutely, you can make this available as a tool. In my mind, I think it could even be an opt-out tool, like it's automatically loaded, but as a faculty member, I've got the right to opt out if I want to. Personally, like, here's an example of this. Let's say that I'm a professor of design, right? And I've got very particular ideas about how a syllabus should be laid out. And then this mandated syllabus comes along, and I don't know, like if I'm a design snob, I'm not going to be satisfied. I'm not going to be satisfied with like the default layout of simple syllabus. And so I should have the ability to make that change, right? But I'm not a professor of design, and I still care very much about the layout of my syllabus, right? And so, yeah, so these things can be provided as resources, and in a lot of cases, like, can be very helpful for faculty. It's always when we come up against that, we're going to mandate this. Like, mandating the thing almost always runs up against academic freedom. And so I wish that we would stop going down that road, frankly. I wish that we'd start thinking more about like providing resources and support rather than mandating and controlling.
Thank you for chiming in. That makes me feel a little bit better should that come up in a future conversation, which I'm sure it will.
Liz, are we ready to the scenarios and breakout rooms?
Yes, that was exactly what I was going to see. Wanted to know if anyone had any questions, just kind of since we're generally speaking about academic freedom and freedom of speech, and before we get into the scenarios that are more specific to people's roles and maybe even contexts that we often may run into within higher education. So if not, then I'm actually going to go ahead and stop the recording or pause the recording for this part, just because Zoom does not capture what happens in breakout rooms, and also too because we really want people to feel like they have the ability to discuss, and so with that. For those of you that are in the in-person location, you actually have these scenarios all printed out for you. For us that are in the virtual space, those scenarios are actually here. So with that, let's take about 20 minutes, similar to the in-person location, all virtual attendees will put us in breakout rooms. And then what we'll do is, maybe take a few minutes to see which scenario you really want to delve into. And then maybe if you have other scenarios that you can discuss, great. And then again, the value of having Matt and Megan here is that they're able to kind of provide for us whenever we report out on our findings or the way that we would approach. Maybe you can say that we really want to encourage people to have that dialogue. So thank you all so much for joining. We had some really great discussion on the different scenarios. We thank again Matt Jolie and Megan McGuire for being here today from the Committee of Academic Freedom. We are hoping to continue this programming again in the future. For those of you in the in-person space, if you have ideas for how we can continue to address issues or concerns that you have, we will send out this recording with the link to not only the Committee for Academic Freedom's page on the district site, but also that Google form that they may let us know is a reference, right? So if people have questions or concerns, those can be put there. And Dean Baranowski, thank you so much for being the host for our in-person location. Wishing everyone a very great weekend, and until next time.